The Pope and Young Club wants to welcome you as we rally together to ensure our bow hunting opportunities for today and tomorrow. You've come to the podcast that believes in preserving, protecting, and promoting the passion for bow hunting. Join us as we strive to be the voice of today's bow hunter. This is the Pope and Young Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pope and Young Podcast. Jason Roundsville here, joined as always by my co-host Dylan Ray. And we have with us today, straight from the Boone and Crockett Awards in Springfield, Missouri, we have Tavis Rogers. So Tavis, welcome to the Pope and Young Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I just to give everybody a background, I think it was 3 years ago that our partnership between Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett kind of initiated the Glen St. Charles Award. So what that is the Glen St. Charles Award is for an outstanding trophy, an outstanding archery taken trophy that is invited to the Boone and Crockett Awards program. And so you and I were both just back in Springfield, Missouri. For those awards, you were awarded the number one spot for a non-typical Columbia blacktail, taken right here in my home state of Oregon. So I'm always proud of that. And then our board of directors,
gotta get it in there anytime you can.
Every time I'm gonna do my shout out. And so anyway, our board of directors looked at every archery entry that was at the Boone and Crockett Awards. A lot of discussion, a lot of deliberation. And I mean, there were some magnificent trophies here. You know, you look at Brian Butcher and it 320 some inch whitetail, 320 some inches. That's incredible. You look at, there was a huge 390 something Roosevelt that was taken in Oregon. We had is
that where you're from?
It might be. We had Alan Boland's, that thing was his Sitka blacktail, which was a world record. So you were up against a number of formidable, amazing trophies. So tell us when you were on stage, because you were on stage receiving your BNC award, and then they called me up to present the Glen St. Charles. What was going through your mind? I mean, hey, congratulations on a phenomenal 170 inch net, non-typical Columbia blacktail, which is, that's a monster. That's just a monster.
Yeah, first, I started to turn and walk off, and I think I got 2 steps, and this hand hits my shoulder, and I'm like, what was that? And Justin Spring, he says, "Oh, no, you're not done yet." I'm like, what? And I turned around. I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I'm totally confused. I'm kind of a little bit, I'm like, what's going on? Pulled me back to the middle, and then they called you out. When they called it out and said that, I was getting the St. Charles Award, I almost lost it. I'd never heard of it, but I know Glen St. Charles, he's a legend.
And our founder. Yes.
And it just, I was lucky enough to get to meet Glen St. Charles and at a number of Pope and Young events over the years and spend some time with him and talk with him. And just when they said that, and so I know where that comes from. It hit hard. I got emotional.
That's awesome.
I told somebody afterwards, I said, I hope they didn't take pictures while I was crying. I was trying to get the tears out of my eyes. It's like, it meant a tremendous amount. I was just in shock. Jason, you turned around over there and came over. I was like, you may have to hold me up, man. This is a lot.
That's so fantastic.
I wasn't there, but hearing Jason describe how you received it, man, that's what you want. You don't want it to go to somebody who's like, "Oh yeah, thanks, cool, I appreciate it." That's incredible that you understand and Man, that's who you want it to go to. Like,
Yeah.
That's when you look at it and you say, yeah, we chose the right one.
And it's, just a little background. Tavis, I hadn't met you prior to the Boone and Crockett Awards. And Thursday night, they had a kind of a reception in the trophy area with all the displays of all the trophies. And so I was talking to some folks. I was talking to the folks from Oregon with that Roosevelt. And I saw you sitting over there with a Pope and Young hat on. And so that's, when you're at the Boone and Crockett Awards and you're wearing a Pope and Young hat, that's just cool. So I'm like, I saw that and I'm like, I got to go talk to that guy. And then I went up there and and then you started telling me about the buck, and I want to hear it. We want you to tell the story of that deer, because the way you tell it and the emotion that you went through, it's a great, I want them to hear it. But I just want people to understand, here's a guy that's at the Boone and Crockett Awards getting an award from BNC, and he's wearing a Pope and Young hat. And I'm like, that is just
big
so
question.
cool.
Is it new logo or old logo?
It was the mid. It was the whitetail. It was one of the Kuyu hats.
Oh yeah,
with the whitetail skull on it.
Well, I'll make sure and get you out a new logo with that QU hat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no, he was there representing, and I knew who the award was going to, and I hadn't had the chance to meet you yet, and so it was so neat to meet you, connect all the dots, and it was a great experience for me. So Tavis, give us a kind of a rundown, and you're doing this all with a longbow.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
was this with the self bow?
Yeah. No, that was with the longbow. It was with the Black Widow longbow. And that, interestingly, that bow, that I guess it's got really good luck in it. I've used that same bow. I shot a really nice Dall sheep and a really nice mountain caribou with it a number of years ago, and then I've shot a number of elk with that bow, and then I was trading around bows while I was blacktail hunting. One day I'd hunt with one bow, and another day I'd hunt with another one. But for some reason, I picked up that bow that morning and said, that's the bow I'm going to take, and it just felt right,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, call it superstitious or whatever, but I mean, but thank goodness it worked out, on that day, definitely.
Well, send it to me, and maybe I'll shoot something other than a forky.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Not
likely. He loves them forking horns, man. So do I.
Hey, first one that comes in, dude.
Put them down.
But it may be a little heavy for you. It's like 62 pounds, I think. So it's a little on the heavy side for a traditional bow, which
I think he just called me weak, Jay.
No.
Yeah, he did.
He just looked at me and said, "Well, I can pull it back, but hey."
I didn't even, until then, I didn't know you guys had met.
Yeah.
Clearly you've met if he knows you can't pull his bow back.
No, with traditional bows, it's really difficult. Like, for example, if somebody shoots 75 pounds or 80 pounds with a compound, I'll hand them a 60-pound bow, and they get it about here, and they go, it stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got to, it's got to come all the way back. And that's one thing it's different muscles.
It is. The bow I'm currently shooting is 57, and I really like where that's at. I don't have the need to go up anymore, and I really like the way it shoots. And
that's plenty Fred Bear said, 45 pounds is adequate to take anything in North America. And he was right. With the right arrow setup, it's definitely adequate to take anything in North America with 45-pound draw bow. So, people overbow themselves, and they end up having bad habits in their shooting form. So
Fred Eichler shoots 43 pounds, and he obviously shoots everything in North America. So
it's more than adequate with the right arrow and right broadhead.
Well, you know what? I'm not Fred Eichler, so I'm going to shoot 80. I'll just stay. I probably came in with the bad habits.
For sure.
I'm excited to hear the story of this deer, though.
Yeah, Tavis, tell us about this buck.
So this hunt came about. A good friend of mine called me up kind of out of the blue and asked if I wanted to go hunt blacktails. I said, yeah. And I said, when?
Hold on. Has anybody ever called you up and say, "Hey, do you want to go hunt X, Y, or Z?" that you ever said no to?
Uh,
I didn't think so.
it's hard. It's hard to say no. It really
I
is.
just like his answer. When?
Yeah.
When? And he said, well, in November. And I'm like, so I'm on the computer while I'm talking to him. I'm like, where are we going? And he said, Southern Oregon. I'm like, okay. And the steelhead are running. We're there. And he said, what? And I said, we're there. I said, you don't have to talk anymore. I'm good. I'll go steelhead fishing if the hunting sucks. I'm great. I love fishing too. So it's like, all
now,
right.
where's home? I need to know that first. Where's home?
I live in Northwest Colorado near Steamboat Springs.
Okay.
So, but I love to fly fish, and I'd never caught a true steelhead, one that had, went to the ocean and ran back in, and so that was on the list. So, said sure, let's go. And then of course COVID was a nightmare, and so we set up our flights and went out, and all the masks and all of that rigmarole. But I get to Oregon, and my first indication of hey, we're not in Kansas anymore, or not in Colorado either. It's pouring down. I mean, literally, I don't see this kind of rain in Colorado. And it's just, we walk out of there. I mean, it's just pouring down. I had actually I was late to get up there because we had a blizzard here in Colorado, and I was late to the airport, so I had to fly out a day late. When I got there, he shot a very nice deer himself, and he met me at the airport. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. This rain. How am I going to hunt? I'm hunting with a longbow with feathers and wood arrows, and this is going to be bad. And he said, well, and I did have some carbon arrows, so at least those would make it. So anyway, so we go and take care of his deer, and then go out. And I'm like, man, I'll never see a deer as good as the one you got. I mean, that's just a tremendous buck. So, anyways, we go and get set into the hotel, and and it's just pouring down. I'm thinking, man, I hope this rain stops. And it's Oregon, I guess. And
Yeah,
so
it stops.
It doesn't stop.
Well, this year it didn't stop till July. Usually,
Hey, somebody told me, Jason, I don't know if I ever told you this. Somebody said, yeah, that's why Jason got so tall, because he's always getting watered.
Oh man. I'll tell you, but you talk about it, and it's he left where they have a blizzard. And the nice thing about rain, you don't have to shovel rain.
Yeah, that's true.
It just comes down, runs off. You're not. It's not any back-breaking shovels, and there's no rain plows or anything like that. So,
but everything is mossy.
Oh yeah, that was another thing that was really strange. Seeing all the trees with all the moss on them, and then that moss, the like Spanish moss growing off the trees. That was like, wow, this is definitely different. Most of my hunting is probably Southwest or Central United States. So I don't spend much time in those rainforests. So it was quite different. So we didn't hunt that evening. Went out the next day and saw some deer. Saw some nice bucks and and then I had a couple more. I had a really interesting the day before I shot the big deer. I had a nice 3-point blacktail that was bedded down. That's not. So I said, I'm stalking that deer. And so I made a stalk on that deer, got within about 15 yards, and he was kind of laying below some brush, and he stood up, and I shot. And I'm like, that should have killed him. The arrow was dropping right in and hit a branch right at the last minute, and missed. And God, it tore me up. I'm thinking, man, that was that. I may not get another opportunity. So the next day it's just pouring. They called for a big storm coming through, and big storm front, very low pressure, wind warnings all up and down, all that whole area. And the landowner we were on, he said, well, you may have trouble getting in here if the trees start blowing over. You're not going to get back in, back up here. So we were a little bit hesitant. The next morning, went out, and it's pouring down rain. I said, well, I guess I'm going to have to sit in the dang ground blind. I hate sitting in I'm more of a spot and stalk guy. And so, well, I'll sit in the ground blind until maybe it'll break, and be able to get out and try to stalk some of these deer. And so I'm sitting in the ground blind, and it's just pouring down rain, and really, as it starts to get daylight, it's just foggy, cloudy, rainy. and I've got a few does kind of milling around in the area, and I'm thinking, okay, well, at least I've got some deer out there. And I see a movement up on the hill, and I look up. I thought, well, hell, that looked like a buck. And I pulled up my binoculars, and it was just gone. Like as soon as I put, and I thought, there's something wrong. That did not look right. That's too big. I mean, that was not. I'm seeing things. And I thought, no, I mean, I saw just a glimpse of the left side of his antlers as we walked by, and I'm like, that can't be real. So I kind of sat there for a minute, and I thought, well, we'll see what, something else will come in here in a minute. And I was watching in that direction just to see if something else would move, if I'd catch him moving again or something. And finally, about 150 yards away, I see something move in the brush, and I pull up my binoculars, and it's a big black fork, and I'm going, like this. And I'm going, oh, shoot, there's a buck. It looks like a good one, And so I'm watching, and this buck steps out into an opening, and there's a road cut there, and he steps into that road cut, and I almost threw up. I was just like, oh my God, that is beyond belief for a blacktail. I hunt mule deer a lot, and I'm thinking, this is the size of a mule deer. This is not real. And so in order to not spook the deer that were near me, because I could tell my breathing went crazy, and I was losing it. So I ducked down in a little ball and underneath the edge of the ground blind, and basically did the breathing exercise, trying not to hyperventilate and not scare off all the deer and not throw up. And so I peeked over the blind, and deer was still there. And I mean, I literally had to look at the water running down the tree beside me to calm down. I'm like, don't even look at him, just hope he comes in range. And there were some does in there that he was checking out. And he got in behind one and came by, and I think the shot was about 25 yards. And as he came through an opening there, and when I shot high. And the first thought through my mind was, nobody's going to even believe that I saw a deer like this, and I just screwed it up. I totally screwed this up. And I was just sick. So I texted my buddy, and I said, hey, I shot a deer. And he said, oh, did you shoot a buck? And I said, yeah. He says, nice buck. And I'm like, yeah. And he called me, and I said, well, yeah, I shot a buck, but made a bad shot. And I said, and he said, well, how big is he? And I said, I hate to tell you this, but I think he looked like a 180-inch mule deer. And it was just dead silence. He goes, that doesn't exist around here. These are blacktails. You're seeing shit. He said, yeah, no, you're seeing stuff. There's no way.
Somebody tells me they see a 180-inch blacktail, and the only person I'm going to believe is a person who has a score sheet that says it.
Exactly.
Because that's just unreal. Yeah.
And he says, oh, no, that's not even real. He says, well, give me, I'll come up and, I'll help you find him. Okay. Yeah. Give it some time. Give it about an hour before you even come in here. And so he came up, and we looked around and found the arrow. The arrow had passed through, and there was blood all over it, and a little bit of gut matter. And I thought, I killed this deer. I told him, I said, no, this deer's, he's dead. Now we just have to find him. And so we got on his tracks, and they were digging into the ground maybe 2-3 inches as he went down the hill. Followed them as far as we could down to the bottom of a draw there. And I stuck the arrow in the mud, and I said, okay, let's just leave. We're going to come back after lunch, and we'll see if we can find him. Give him some time, because just based on what the arrow showed, I'm like, I don't want to follow him immediately and jump him. So,
and I don't know if you mentioned that, you're waiting after you hit that buck. You waited what, an hour before you started?
An hour before even starting on the trail,
and that's with the rain, which is hard to do. When it's raining, that you're losing part of your blood trail every minute, and that's kudos for that, because too many people jump in early and bump them out and lose them for that
Well, if
very
you,
reason.
I mean, you think about it, if you bump that deer and he goes farther in the rain, that makes it that much harder to ever find that deer. I mean, he
Yeah.
may go a mile, you just don't know. So we backed out, gave it, it was probably from the time I shot that deer, I shot him at 7:30 in the morning. It was 1 o'clock before we went out and actually started looking hard. And we looked, the landowner came out with us. And so there were three of us looking. We gridded, searched up and down and through, ran out of tracks right where my arrow was stuck in the mud. And we looked hard. We covered all of the hillsides around. We started, making loops and ended up going out, probably a mile from where I shot that deer, all kind of together, working together, looking, and no deer. And, the whole time I'm just getting sicker and sicker thinking, man, I know this was a solid hit to have, based on the arrow. And I was really concerned that we were never going to find that deer because of the, the conditions. And so I was just sick. And I was telling myself, I'm going to stick after finding this deer. I'm not going to hunt any, I won't be hunting anything else. This is the, whether I find it today, tomorrow, 2 days from now, 3 days, I'm after this deer. So later on in the afternoon, probably it was around 4:00, 4:15, we split up, and we're just kind of wandering around. And I said, I'm going to go back to where I stuck that arrow in the mud, and I pulled the arrow. And I'm thinking, his tracks were going straight to this point. And where is the thickest, nastiest spot on, in what direction? And, straight in front was, there was a lot of thick brush. And so I thought, well, we've looked through there already today twice or 3 times. We've walked right through there, but I'm going to just keep my head down and keep looking for some tracks going in that direction, because there really wasn't any reason for him to go in another direction. I put the arrow in my quiver, and I'm walking up the hill, just past where I'd lost the tracks, and there was a big fallen, I guess a spruce tree or pine tree, big, like 2 trees had fallen together, big, branches up about 5 or 6 feet high. And I walked up to the bottom of those trees, and I'm looking around, and I smelled deer. I mean, I literally smelled him, and I'm like, God, I smell deer. Where's my arrow? I'm smelling my arrow, and then I'm smelling my hands. I'm smelling, I'm like, oh, that's not my hands. And I took one more step and looked down, and I mean, not 2 feet from my left foot was his rack. It was like he is buried up underneath those trees, and that's where he died.
Mm.
And it was less than 200 yards. If we would have pushed that deer, we'd have never found him in that thick timber. Never. I just know that if he would have stood up and walked anywhere, we'd have never seen him. And so I let out a yell. You guys probably heard. You might have even heard that one in Kansas, though. But I'm pretty sure everybody in Oregon and Northern California. I mean, it was, the ups and downs when you're trailing something you're not going to find it, and it's just such an incredible. I mean, any animal, but when it's such an incredible animal, and people are not going to believe you if you don't find it. It's like, nobody's going to believe me. Oh yeah, I shot a,
giant.
A giant blacktail. And they're going to say, whatever. Where's the proof?
Sure, you did. Yeah.
So I mean, it was the emotional roller coaster I went on through that day. The high, I would say, I had to have gone through some of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. The buck fever that I got on that, I don't get buck fever, and man, I came completely uncorked on that deer. I was just a mess. So, I mean, it's spectacular when you really get that, all the way across the spectrum, and it doesn't happen that often, especially the more you hunt, the more, it seems like you get less of that. But man, was that an experience. And I remember I pulled that deer out from under the tree, and I'm like, oh my God, I got it. And I started yelling, and my buddy came up, and we took a lot of pictures, and then we went back to the hotel. I caped it out, and I remember him asking me, well, how many points does he have? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know. And I mean, and I'm sitting there trying to count. I said, I can't even count. I just can't. I said, and I just put it down, the skull down, and we measured it there at the hotel, and he had his, we had measuring stuff there. And we're measuring it up. Oh my God, he says, this thing is like really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, but it was just such a tremendous deer. And that evening, I faced him out and stuff while I was cooking. I marinated the tenderloins, and I said, we're going to have the tenderloins tonight. We're going to celebrate, and we cooked up the tenderloins on the grill at the hotel, and had tenderloins, and then measured the deer, and where we came up with, it's like, this is like second place in Pope and Young. It's like, oh my God, what do you do? It's like, really?
You eat the tenderloins.
And we ate the tenderloins, and we definitely celebrated that deer that night.
What was the final score? I don't know if I've heard or not.
The final score was 175 even, 175 and 208.
Which I'd have to look. I mean, I've got a book of it. I'd have to look. I mean, that's like it's like a 300-inch mule deer. That's
yeah.
So
it's just a giant. I mean, comparatively, it's like a 440-inch elk or something. It's just insane.
Really,
you shot a blacktail, literally big enough antler-wise to go in as a mule deer. To go in the books as a mule deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You shot a blacktail bigger than most people will shoot a whitetail.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it? I mean, just insane.
Yeah, beautiful buck. I got fortunate enough to get to see it. So,
just a beautiful, typical Frank. So I would say, Jason, so when we put the tape on it, my buddy, we get through adding everything up on the back of a napkin, kind of a thing, and he says, you're kind of a jerk, you know that? And I said, why is that? He says, you told me on the phone that this deer was going to score 180 inches, and he says he's 185, gross score. He says, you missed it. You missed your score. You're a jerk. He said it was 180. It was bigger than that. I said, well, I try to get under him a little when I'm telling somebody that I think it scored. but man, I mean, just a spectacular all around animal.
Look at this. No, hold on.
No, that's just a tremendous mule deer. Everything at Boone and Crockett was just so tremendous. I mean, I have to say.
Yeah, they do a really nice. Look at that thing. I have to move my camera so I can look at the screen. That's just unreal. How many points did it end up having?
God,
I still don't know.
I know.
I don't know.
That's
man.
Cool. You know what? Look at that. We're in a Pope and Young vest, Pope and Young hat. All right. If anybody out there is listening, if you ever want to get, the Glen St. Charles Pope and Young Award at a Boone and Crockett convention, I would start by wearing, I don't think that didn't even factor into the board's decision, but now that I see the picture and it just solidifies their choice as far as I'm concerned.
That's absolutely phenomenal.
That's a monster. It is just a monster blacktail. I mean, I've lived here my whole life. I've never seen a buck that big. So, and I've seen a lot of blacktail bucks. So that's truly something to behold.
At least now all your buddies that said, dude, you're smoking something. We don't have deer like that here. At least you got to say, yeah, you do. Look right here.
Jeez. And I truly feel like I've had an amazingly blessed hunting career, all of my hunting career. I mean, going back to the very beginnings. I mean, my mom made my first bows, and my granddaddy made my first real bow. I considered my real bow, which was a hickory bow, and just getting to hunt, deer and antelope and turkeys, and I mean across the board, all the stuff we have. It is, we're blessed. We're all blessed. Not tremendously good animals over the years, and it's perseverance. It's getting out there, and you gotta have that drive and that want to. But I feel like I've just been blessed. I mean, I can't.
I'd agree.
Think of it any
You
other
have.
way.
I definitely agree. You have been blessed.
I mean,
That's
There's no arguments from either of us.
no, that's just, yeah. And this, and the neat thing is I had a chance to visit with him several different times at the convention there. And this is just one of a dozen stories he's got, or 30 different stories. He's got all kinds of stories like this. Has anything else given you buck fever the way that one did?
No.
Okay.
I mean, not my Dall sheep, not my, I killed a giant elk in Colorado. No, I mean, not at all. I mean, my Dall sheep, I actually missed him on the first shot, and he ran off, and then he turned around and came back, and I drilled him on the second shot. I didn't even flicker until after I didn't even get nervous until, quite a while after I shot him. And that was a tremendous animal to just have the opportunity to hunt, my big bull elk. I mean, I shot him at like 25 yards, and I don't think I got excited about that really until I got my hands on him. Then I started shaking. But but normally I just don't get that rattled, and this blacktail rattled me to my core. I don't know any other way to say it but I was just rattled to my core. I mean, shaking in my boots.
And that right there is a Pope and Young Glen St. Charles award moment.
Yeah.
That is
100%.
exactly, that is exactly how Glen would want it to be, is all of the excitement, all of the energy, all of the emotion, all the raw emotion that makes bow hunting so special. And that when we were talking, I'm just like, everybody has to hear this story, because it's just so neat. And the way you tell it, and I mean, you're not making this up, because I was standing in front of you, and you can feel it when you're telling the story. You're like, oh, it's shaking. And it's just, it's so neat to hear.
So did that hit you anytime before you were at the grill where you're like, dude, I got something special here, like real special? When you knew?
As soon as I saw that deer, I started freaking out. I mean, the first glimpse of him going along a hillside, he went through an opening in the hill on the hillside up above, and I was just, I was like, wait a second, that's not that's just totally not at all, the blacktail was my last North American subspecies of deer.
Oh,
the Columbian
very
blacktail.
cool.
So I've hunted all of them. I've hunted coos deer a tremendous amount, mule deer a tremendous amount, whitetails a tremendous amount. So, I knew what he was, and that, I think if I wouldn't have known what he was, it would have been a lot better. But knowing when you see something like that, and you go, oh my, it's like seeing 150-inch coos deer.
Yeah.
It's like seeing Jason, I'd have to do comparative, but I don't know what the number 2 whitetail is.
The butcher, wouldn't it?
320, 321, and 321 and change.
That's butcher, isn't it?
Is it number 2?
300-inch whitetail. I can't even imagine. I can't wrap my head around a 300-inch whitetail.
Yeah.
To see when hunting, to see one. Even see one.
I'll tell you what, that butcher buck, man, we had like a room of scores, and they couldn't wrap their head around it until they got like 3 rolls of tape on it. So
it's that class of an animal, and just to see one when you're out actually. I mean, okay, you go out hunting, you expect to see a giant, whatever you're hunting, right? Every time, but actually seeing one is a different game altogether. And and then being
I'll
able
tell
to
you-
hold it together and make a decent shot.
I'll tell you the reason I ask is because I absolutely love hearing people tell a story of a new world record or a top 5. And they're like, I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was that big. You know, like it never dawned on me I have a new world record. It never dawned on me that this was top 5. It never dawned on me. He's like, I just knew it was big. And so that's why I asked, because I love that. Like, you're just there to hunt and you find a giant. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, absolutely, totally unexpected.
That's awesome.
Hunting in the right place, but even hunting in the right place, you can pick the best place for any animal in any species, and you can go hunt there, and you may not see anything. That's hunting. Or if you see something that may just be small, and you don't get anything because you're saying, oh, I'm going to wait for a big one, and you don't shoot anything. You know.
Yeah.
You just don't ever find anything that's even reasonable. So you have to kind of, have to set some goals and stay with them. But, the chances of, this is, it's more than, it's not once in a lifetime. I mean, it's once in a lot of lifetimes to have something this crazy happen. It really is.
Now, it doesn't take much to figure out. I mean, a quick Google search, and you can see you're no stranger to giant animals. That's for sure. So, like, let me just make note that the guy that you hear talking, this isn't like the only big animal he's ever killed. You know?
No.
How many book animals do you have?
I don't know. I think Jason looked it up. I've got a lot of critters I haven't entered.
Now's the time.
What's that? Well, I don't even remember what year I killed. I mean, I've got piles of critters. I went through a long phase, guys, where I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth from Pope and Young. That would be, in the 90s.
What changed that?
I stepped away. Well, it was just some politics in the club, and I stepped away and didn't, just was, I was like, no, I just, it's not for me. I don't really care. I'm just going to keep hunting, and I'll know what they, I'll score myself. I'll know what they score, and so what? That's good enough for me. Which, for many people, that's fine. But I spent a few years away, and actually, went to one of the Pope and Young. I can't remember which one it was, but I was at Pope and Young, and I talked to Glen St. Charles, and sat down and talked with him, and I just, he was at a table with him and Margaret, and I sat down and just listened to him, and I talked with him a bit. I sat there for like 4 hours with him, and I thought, I need to change my change the way I'm looking at this now, and think about this a little differently. And so I don't even know. I've got whitetails, coos deer, mule deer, antelope that would make book. I just don't even remember what year I shot them in anymore. It's, these were back in the 90s, early 2000s, and that's okay. I mean, I've entered a few animals, and I'll continue to enter animals as I move forward, particularly, if they're good solid animals.
Yeah.
And I feel like, okay, it's part of supporting the club and helping others helping others see that that archery is effective and efficient, and that, even the old school stuff, the long bows and recurves, hey, they work.
Yeah. Well, it's, once again, just to put it into perspective, it's, for that Glen St. Charles award, you're up with, you were literally competing with, I think the number 2, non-typical whitetail ever taken.
Number two, the Roosevelt elk is number 2, correct?
I believe so. Yeah. Matthew Culver, I think, got that one here in Oregon. And that was, I think it was top 5 or 6 in Boone and Crockett all time. And then, a world's record with Alan Boland's blacktail. So, I mean, man, that's a group that I wouldn't want to have to compete against right there.
No. I mean, I never knew there was a competition, man.
Yeah. It's
Well, that's not why I hunt, you know.
yeah. No, you know, and I enjoyed that whole experience. And I had a few people, you know, I got to see Brian Butcher, whose buck was there. He's been on the program with us. What a great guy. I mean, just so nice. He had his family there, and it was so neat to meet them. And gosh, I go when I sat down for the Saturday night banquet. I sit down. I was at Justin Springs' table. He says, "Hey, do you need a spot?" I said, "Yeah, I sure do." And he says, "Great, I got one at my table." So I'm sitting next to Justin's dad, and they're actually from Coos Bay, North Bend area here in Oregon, not kind of about halfway between where I'm at and where you shot that buck almost. And so nice folks. And then there's a young couple left of me, and he says his name was Blake McFall. And he says, are you Jason from the podcast? I said, yeah, I sure am. I said, do you listen? Cause that just somebody listens to the podcast. It makes my day. And so we started talking. He says, man, and Blake, if you're listening, and I hope you are, he says he plays our podcast all the time. He owns Axis Archery out of down in Texas, East Page, Texas. Anyway, he was sitting there and he says, man, he says, I've done some cool. He says, I was just telling my girlfriend, he says, I think that's Jason from the podcast. And so I'm talking to him, and I don't know if he made this up or not. And if he made it up, I think that's totally cool. I still appreciate it. But he's like, man, I've done some cool stuff. He says, I got to take, who was he? He says, man, I got to take Hank Williams Jr. hunting. But he says, I just had a moment. This was cool. And I'm like, so I don't, like I said, I don't even care if he made it up, but I told him, I said, hey man, for a story like that, made up or not, we got to do a shout out. So Blake, if you're listening, thank you. You made my day. Hopefully I could return the favor. And once again, just the whole Boone and Crockett experience, top-notch organization, you know, the original conservation organization out there. And we worked together on so many things. It was neat. I went into that, and you just never know, you know, as the Pope and Young guy coming into the Boone and Crockett event, you just never know how it's going to go. Is there going to be, you know, a little animosity, us versus them? And I was there all 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, or Thursday evening, all day Friday, and all day Saturday. And I can tell you at no point in time, not even once, was there any kind of us versus them. I mean, every time I sat through the official measures meeting, and every single time Pope and Young was mentioned, it was in a positive light. And so I just, you know, I appreciate our partners over at Boone and Crockett, you know, Tony and Justin and Kyle and Danny and the whole crew over there, you know, for really helping to make this, you know, and that's the staff. And it's the same on the board side. All the board members, you know, I talked to their record chairman, Mike Opitz, and very inclusive. Everybody was nice. You know, their president was at the airport with me yesterday when we both had like 3 hours of, you know, delay. So it's great organization. If you're not a member, you ought to really think about it. They're doing a lot of good things, and we're proud to be associated with them. We're proud to work together on our records programs and joint measuring workshops. I think we share several hundred measures in conjunction with each other, and even the most recent measures manual. You know, really, I think a lot of people were very complimentary of that. So our organizations are very similar in a lot of ways, and I was just very proud and happy to see the cohesiveness between them at their event. So,
Jason, you didn't quite finish your shout out to Blake, though.
Oh, I didn't.
You're supposed to say, me and Dylan would both love to axis hunt, so get with us and we'll come on an axis hunt.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if he hunts axis or if it's, but that's, I mean,
if you're in Texas and your archery shop is named Axis, I'm sure he hunts
if
axis.
You have axis archery, then there should be.
Got to.
Yeah. You know what? Should we do a live podcast after an axis hunt with Blake?
Yes.
Is that what you're
Mhm.
saying?
Yep,
All
me,
right.
you,
Okay.
and we got to take Tavis, or none of us will kill anything. So
We're not taking Tavis. I don't want to compete against that
did
guy.
you not? But did you
I
not
mean-
hear him? Did you not hear him though? He said his buddy shot a giant too, the guy he was hunting with. So
Yeah, but his was still bigger.
I'll shoot a giant if he shoots one, but I don't care.
Yeah. That's they say it's better to be lucky than good, but what if you're both?
Yeah,
then
there
it's
you go.
not fair.
Right.
Then it's just not fair.
We
Well,
happen to
that's-
not be either. I suck and I'm not lucky.
Yeah. So, well, Tavis, what's next on the list, man? You've shot a bunch of good stuff out there.
Axis sounds like.
Well, no, I shot 3 of those this spring.
Well,
Oh yeah, okay. Never
yeah, of
mind
cour-
then. You're out.
Of
Never
course
mind.
you did.
Never mind. You're out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Didn't you
yeah.
shoot 3 this spring, Dylan?
Yeah.
So, and actually snuck up on a really nice buck and shot him in his bed with my longbow. So that was pretty cool.
Texas or Hawaii? That's the real question.
In Texas. My parents have a ranch down there. So
Sounds like we can go with Tavis. We don't even need Blake.
Yeah. All right.
may have to set something up.
Yeah.
So no, I've got a New Mexico antelope hunt next week. I think that's next week. It's coming up fast. So I'll be hunting in New Mexico for pronghorn. And
Nice.
then I had an Arizona elk tag, but I turned it in because I'm just not sure where things are going to go this fall. If I've got the time to really, to me, when I get an elk tag, I want to put forth a lot of effort because elk are tough. It's really tough, to be successful on elk. And to me, they, at least for me, they tend to take a lot of time to get a good elk, to get a decent elk. So I turned that tag in. I do have over-the-counter archery elk here in Colorado and a bear tag. I'm still looking to see if I can pull a leftover deer tag of some sort. I've missed out on the first 2 draws, so I'm still looking for a deer tag in Colorado. Mule deer are kind of like my passion. And I just love hunting mule deer above tree line in Colorado. That's my passion.
That's the only reason he shot a blacktail that was as big as a mule deer.
Yes.
It definitely was
Yes,
not above
it-
tree line.
No,
It was
no.
not above tree line.
No,
It was, yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I'm sure other things will pop up. I just play it by ear as much as I can, and if I can get the time off from work, I take off and go.
You're not going to get stuff like that on the couch, are you?
No, that's the thing. I mean, when I shot that deer in 2020, everybody was just freaking out over COVID, and I'm like, no, I'm going hunting.
Yeah.
I heard one thing, Tavis. I heard it said, you're a redneck if COVID and quarantines didn't change anything about the way you live.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a redneck.
It just made it. I'll tell you what, it just made the airport travel that much easier.
Yeah,
'Cause
there
I
you go.
can tell you for 2 years,
It was empty.
whew, it was nice. I mean,
It was empty.
airports were empty, no lines, no crowded flights, nobody in that middle row next to you. It was
So,
pretty nice.
So I do still have credit for the flight that I was supposed to take to come home from that deer hunt. And I think I still have credit because for some reason I decided rather than going on an airplane with that deer, I'm going to take it home in a rental car. So I went to the airport and rented a car and drove home with my deer. I said, I'm not putting it on the airplane. No,
I am not checking.
not unless I can have it in the seat with me. And I didn't think
Yeah.
they'd let me do that.
Yeah, I'm not, speaking of checking bags, normally I would say, well, that's kind of ridiculous. But here I am. It's afternoon, and I still don't have my bag from the flight this weekend. So
Oh, geez,
you know what?
lost it.
that might have been a good call.
Yeah.
Because you would not want that one to be lost.
Man.
Well, Tavis, I'll tell you what, one of the things that we ask everybody and everybody that comes on the show, And we have, you know what's neat is I just realized we have now had every single Pope and Young Glen St. Charles Award winner on this show. Both of
Have
you.
we?
Yeah, Steve Felix.
How many are
with
there?
his, you're the second.
I'm a second. Oh,
Yeah, and the only other one we've given out was Steve Felix in was at 19. So anyway, but one question we ask everybody, whether they've won a Glen St. Charles Award or not, is when you find yourself up on the mountain in the back country above timberline or wherever you happen to be, what is one piece of gear, maybe a non-traditional item that you like to have with you on a hunt?
I mean, my bow, of course. But I'd say there's a lot, and I'm trying to think what's the most important. Probably to me, is a
Non-traditional.
good pair of boots.
That's too traditional. We
It
got to go
is?
non-traditional.
Non-traditional. What is
Although,
non-
you know, a hat's pretty traditional, but if he says my lucky Pope and Young hat, I'll accept that answer.
I'll mail him 2 more if he says it.
Yeah.
I don't know what would be non-traditional.
I mean, if you want to shoot 175-inch net blacktail,
Oh, that's what we need to do. We just need to come out with the Tavis Rogers Pope and Young hat, and then that's how we promote it.
Please don't. Please no.
You
No.
want to shoot giant mule deer sized blacktails? This is
what
your
you
hat.
need. This is your hat.
Well, I
I think
always
we're onto
almost,
something here.
well, I'm a little, little skinny on the top there, so I've got to wear a hat or I'm getting sunburned. But I'm just trying to think non-traditional. What do you mean? I mean, what do you mean by non-traditional? I mean, I've got my
Perfect
boots, I've
example
got my-
is perfect example. The second answer we ever got was bacon.
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 Bacon. Yeah. When they're in the back country, that's the one thing they take is bacon. So they get,
We've had some great answers. Earplugs,
yeah.
for
Earplugs.
snoring dudes in the tent.
That was Frank
Um,
Noska. You know what's bad is when somebody takes and I just talked to him the other day. So Frank, if you're listening, this is for you, buddy. Yeah, when you're doing solo hunts and you still have to take earplugs for the snoring, you know that's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, Frank does. I've hunted with Frank. I've camped out with Frank on Kudu Island hunting bears. So yeah, Frank has to wear his plugs whether I'm there or not.
You know,
Oh,
guy, hey, here's how we are on the Pope and Young podcast. Guy is on his 3rd slam with a bow, and we're still gonna throw
Shade at him.
poke the bear.
Got to throw something at it.
You know,
I'm just trying to think. I don't know what would be non-traditional. I carry in my knife, my backpack, and my game bags, and my optics, and
Snacks. What kind of snacks you carry?
no, you'd be surprised how little I carry. I don't eat or drink much. And I've been told this. I need to.
I'm not
Drink
going
more
hunting with
water.
you.
No, I go pretty hard. I mean, I'll take a Coke bottle with. If I remember to put water in the morning, that's good. If not, that's good too. I keep going.
My
go pretty
favorite hunting
hard.
partners are the ones that say, "Hey, dude, you want a Snickers? You want a Reese's? What do you want? I got cream
Yeah.
pies. I got
yeah, an Uncrustable perhaps.
I might
Uncrustable.
have a little piece of old salami in the bottom of my pack, or some jerky or something like that, and that's usually about it. When I'm hunting, I go hard.
which is why you kill
think-
giants."
I
Yeah.
usually think about it at the end of the day. I'm going, God, I haven't eaten or drank anything all day. I need to, where I drank out of that cow step, there was a little water and a cow print back there. I sucked, got the moss out of the way and filtered the bugs. I go
See,
pretty light.
I shoot Forkies because the big ones don't come in with candy bar wrappers crinkling
Yeah.
around all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's it. Just true story. Because here on the Pope and Young podcast, we like to think that we're changing lives out there.
Yeah,
We had
are.
somebody on
One
recently.
Uncrustable at a time.
Yeah, and legitimately, the other day I got a text from Peter Churchborn with NRA, who was a recent guest,
Yes.
and he sent me a
Yes.
picture of himself with an box of Uncrustables.
Yes.
He texted it to me. So anyway, one life at a time.
Man, one Uncrustable at a time. We're changing lives,
That's
dude.
right. And who was that? Nick? Did Nick?
Yeah,
come up
Nick
with that?
Munt. and we still don't even have an Uncrustable sponsorship. It's ridiculous.
It's hard to believe that we haven't gotten Uncrustables.
Come on, Smuckers.
Well, a lot of guys will carry, a lot of candy and that kind of stuff. I don't do well with just sugar. I tend to carry meat. Like I said, some good salami or jerky and maybe some water.
I tend to do pretty good with candy, or I thought I did until I put that suit on for the Boone and Crockett Awards. And I'm like, man, I'm a couple slices of pizza, ahead of where I was the last time that suit went on.
Oh my.
So
losing weight's easy. Just go hunt with Tavis for a week, dude. You'll lose some weight.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to pick my hunt partners by who had the better snack bag.
Yeah. No doubt.
Anyway, well, Tavis, I'll tell you what, man, we sure appreciate you joining us today. Once again, congratulations on a tremendous buck. As somebody who's been around those his whole life, and I've never seen anything remotely close to the size of that buck. I've seen some big ones. I've seen some monsters, and I've never seen anything remotely close to that. So, congratulations on that. Congratulations.
Guys, make sure and head over to www.pope-young.org/Tavis World Record hat, and you can get yours today.
Yeah.
3 colors available.
3 colors. So once again, congratulations. Appreciate you telling the story. And I love the emotion that you bring to the story. And
absolutely.
So congratulations on the Glen St. Charles Award, only the second one in the history of the club. So congratulations on all of those.
Thank you very much. I mean, thank the Pope and Young Club for all they do, and Boone and Crockett for all they do. I mean, I've been lifetime members in both clubs now for a number of years. Both of those organizations do a tremendous amount for conservation of our North American wildlife, and really, they're some of the most important organizations to be a part of if you're a hunter in anywhere. I mean, they're good. So,
well, we appreciate it. We're fighting for all bow hunters out there. So and there's strength in numbers. So if you're not a member, think about it. Think about joining Pope and Young. Think about joining Boone and Crockett. Great organizations, and they could definitely use the strength in numbers that y'all provide. So anyway, Tavis, once again, thanks for being here, man. Congratulations, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.